Alright, so I'm back, and today, I know I said I was going to take a look at Gutter here, but something else happened, and I wanted to do a video on it right now, while it's still fresh in my head. And that was, I went and saw the new Terminator movie, Terminator Genisys. So, I guess before we get into it, I might do the review of the rest of the Terminator movies. But real briefly, Terminator 1 was great. I really liked that movie. Although, when I was about like 4 or so, 3 or 4, I think, I was walking through my parents' bedroom and Terminator 1 was on. And it was the scene right after he got all his skin burned off and he's like ripping through the wall and stuff like that, and I was traumatized. I didn't know what to think of what I was seeing. My brain was so young it couldn't compute what I was seeing at that time, and it freaked the hell out of me. I had nightmares for months. It was awesome. But yeah, I thought it was a great movie for what it was. The kind of sci-fi, almost like a slasher flick of the time. One of those kind of movies. Suspense, lots of suspense going on. And I thought it's a good movie. Then Terminator 2 Judgment Day, which is probably one of the best movies of all time. I really should do a top 10 favorite movies of all time. But yeah, it's on a level on its own. It's incredible. Arnold does such a good job in that movie. He sells it. Everybody does such a great job. T-1000, he's such an iconic villain from that movie. Then there was Terminator 3, which is by far the worst of the line. It had a few choice scenes, but a lot of people say like the wrecking ball chase scene was the best, and I thought that thing was so boring. I was so I'm like, let it end. It had a few good scenes, like I said, but for the most part, the last like 20 minutes of the movie were pretty good, but for the most part, it's forgettable. Salvation, Terminator Salvation was pretty good. I enjoyed that movie. I wouldn't put it in the same category as 1 or 2, but it was pretty good. Now we have this Terminator Genisys, and if you've seen the trailer, I'm going to try so hard not to do any spoilers. But if you've seen the trailer, you kind of know that the timeline's all sorts of wonky now. Because you got Kyle Reese going back to save Sarah Connor, but then you also find out that there's a T-1000 there, and there's another Arnold Terminator, Model 101. And you sit there and like, wait, what? And I do think to a point that the trailers did show a little too much by showing John Connor as a Terminator. That's on the trailer, so I'm not spoiling anything there. But at the same time, you kind of expect it at the same time. Trying to forget the trailers, but still, the way they play out the scene when they reveal that he's a Terminator, you're kind of like, yeah, he's probably a Terminator. There's no suspense there, really. But all in all, the action was all on point. It was so great. I loved it. I love that movie. That was a great movie, I thought. I know a lot of people will argue with me and say it's like, it's a decent movie or summer blockbuster movie, but I enjoyed the hell out of that movie. Partially because I've been watching a lot of Doctor Who lately, so this whole time stream getting jumbled is something I'm kind of used to at this point. Interesting thing is the fact that Matt Smith's in the movie, and if you guys know who Matt Smith is, kudos to you. If not, he's the 11th Doctor from Doctor Who. I'm not going to say who he is, what he does, and why he's important to the plot, but he's in the movie. J.K. Rollins is in the movie again. I won't give away what he, who he is and and such. But he does an excellent job. So did Matt Smith. He brought a new level to the character he was playing, and I was like, all right, this is pretty cool. But having John Connor as the main Terminator, the villain, was awesome. The T-1000, seeing that thing come back and do things that we've seen, and then a few things that we haven't seen, which was really awesome. The actor that played Kyle Reese, a lot of people say that he didn't do a very good job, or he's not a very good actor. I don't know him for much stuff. I don't watch a lot of movies. I mean, I watch the action movies, and I watch the Terminator movies, and I watch the Transformer movies and stuff like that. But I don't generally sit there and be like, I don't critique movies. So again, as always, this is my opinion. This is not fact. If I say, oh, this movie was good, it's not fact. It's my opinion of the movie. I think it was good. I want to go see it again. I'd go see it again right now if I had an opportunity to. But it's like a monsoon outside right now, so I can't. I could, but it's no fun to drive in that. Anyway, I thought it was great. I thought the actor that played Kyle Reese, he did a pretty good job. Like I said, I'm not sure where he's from or what he's done in the past. I know I've seen him and stuff, but yeah. The girl that played Sarah Connor was awesome. She was all there. And this is where a lot of people are going to be like, oh, this guy's an idiot. Is because of the fact I had no idea who she was going to the movie, and I looked her up afterwards like, let's see if she's been in anything else that's any good. And turns out she was in Game of Thrones. I don't watch Game of Thrones. This is where people are going to lose me. But yeah, I don't watch Game of Thrones. Fantasy, I love fantasy, but I always felt fantasy belongs on the big screen. I want to see fantasy on screen. I don't on theater, popcorn, soda, whole 9 yards. That's how I've seen all the Hobbits, the Lord of the Rings, any other fantasy movies I enjoyed. But this one, I tried to watch a few episodes of it, and I couldn't get into it, and I'm not a fan of it being on the small screen like that. That's just me. That's just me. I've always said that, though. It's like if I see it on the big screen, I always say, oh, this is where it belongs. If I see it on small screen, I sit there and go, I don't know. Like, well, this is a poor example, but Legend of the Seeker, Sword of Truth novels are my favorite books outside of Lord of the Rings. I have the whole collection. I even have autographed books and stuff like that. Anyway, so, I mean, the show came on, and I hated it. Not just, I mean, there were some parts of it I was like, oh, okay, I could kind of get behind this. But, the acting was decent, but for the most part, it's just like, I don't want to sit there and have to invest that much time on a show. For a show like that, and it wasn't very good. I ended up stopped watching it, and I don't even know how it ended. I know it got canceled after season 2, but no. Anyway, but yeah, I never thought fantasy belongs on small screen. Other shows like Walking Dead, I agree with it being on the small screen because of the fact that it's one of those story arcs that can continue going, and every time you watch a zombie movie, you always sit there like, well, I wonder what happened next. Like, think of Zombieland. Don't you guys want to know what happened to those characters at the end of it? You're kind of invested in them by the end of it. Shaun of the Dead is another one. I mean, they kind of wrapped that one up. Same with Dawn of the Dead. But it's like most zombie movies, you sit there, it's like, I want to know what happened. So it's kind of cool, seeing TV shows. I'm way off point, aren't I? Anyway, I never watched the Sarah Connor Chronicles either. So I don't think that fits into this continuum at all. But again, the way they did this movie is there was a lot of things that don't fit into the continuum anymore, including like Salvation and Terminator 3 and even Terminator 2 don't really fit into the categories anymore, which is pretty interesting. Time travel gets a little funky when it comes to stuff like that. But one thing I will warn you about, because this took me out of the film for a little bit, sitting there watching, I'm like, I don't get this, because they're talking about how the Skynet taking over happened in '94, and I'm like, no, or '97, And it's like, yeah, that's what they said in the first movie, but no, they changed it to 2003, I think, something like that, in Terminator 3 because they postponed it. But one thing you have to remember is this is taking place. The beginning of this movie is taking place before the events of Terminator 1, before every timelines were altered. So it takes place then. So that's the mindset you have to go into. You cannot go into it knowing the other Terminator movies. As a matter of fact, you might be other Terminator movies might make you even more confused, which it did me for a few minutes, and I was like, okay, I got it. We're not talking about all the reboots and different timelines. It's the original timeline that we're going off. And, it gets confusing. Arnold Schwarzenegger. I will say, hands down, this was his best performance since he came back to acting. And I've seen quite a few of his movies, and it's like some of them are enjoyable, some are like, and some of the things he's done has been a little over the top. But this was right where he belongs. He needs to be in the Terminator movie. That's the bottom line of that. He has to be in the Terminator movies, and having him there really made it work. And the way they did the timeline with him, so that they could explain why he's aged, worked even better. I mean, I thought that was great. He was always great. You also see the Terminator from the first Terminator that was Arnold Schwarzenegger in his original look. So he's younger, which of course is CGI'd, and that was one of those kind of like in the Salvation. It's not as bad as Salvation where it's really really kind of cartoony, but this one it's still definitely cartoony. You can tell it's CGI. But it's not terrible. It's not terrible. Guy that got to play John Connors did a great job. Matt Smith did a great job. I mean, he was only there for a very brief moment, but I was like, oh, it's the Doctor. And he shows up when they're first working on the time travel, and I was like, that's so fitting that they would put him in that scene. But all in all, I thought, like I said, I thought the action was on point. They had their downtime moments where they're doing their expositions and stuff like that, and it was just enough to keep you interested in the plot, but not enough to take you out of the movie, like Salvation did. Because there's moments in Salvation where you're sitting there like, come on, let's get back to the plot. And there's no, I mean, there's some major action sequences going on. There's a helicopter chase and stuff like that, but there's nothing like in Salvation, for example, when the giant robot's picking up people and they're trying to fight it and run from it and all that stuff. And it was just, I mean, that scene is just so drawn out and dull, just poorly done in my opinion, that it takes you out of the movie and you're just sitting there like, and I remember when I first watched Salvation, I was checking my cell phone when those scenes were going on. Like I said, I thought it was a good movie, but it wasn't a great movie. But yeah, things like that take you out of the movie. I mean, again, the wrecking ball chase scene in Terminator 3 took me out of the scene. So when it comes to the story arc, the way the story arcs work, for the most part, it was more like Terminator 1, where there's this suspense and kind of catching your breath in between the action sequences. Because, if you do nothing but action sequences, you're going to get pretty bored. But the pacing was more like Terminator 1, maybe more like Terminator 2. And I'm not going to sit here and say it's as good as Terminator 2. But, in my opinion, I think it's the second best of the entire Terminator franchise. It is by far my second favorite. I thought it was great. I thought it was incredible. They explain things a little bit better. They work with things a little bit better. Arnold's growth as a character, as a Terminator, was perfect for his acting abilities. And I'm not trying to insult Arnold, but we all know Arnold's Stallone, Van Damme, all of them, they're not the best actors. So it showcased what his acting abilities are, and it was almost as if you kind of get the satisfaction with his character in this movie, because again, I'm not trying to spoil anything, but and if you guys don't want to hear any more, turn it off now, because I'm gonna talk a few things here. But anyway, but you kind of get the satisfaction watching this movie, with the knowledge of the original, or of Terminator 2, because you see his character growth in Terminator 2, and you always kind of wonder, well, what would have happened if he was around a little bit longer than the week or so that he was there, or days or whatever. And you kind of get that in this one. I know it's probably not the same Terminator. Who knows? They don't explain it, and that's cool, because I guess they're going to do 2 more, so they can explain it in later movies. Try and figure out who sent. Oh, there's a spoiler. But try to figure out who sent him back. But yeah, I mean, I thought that was great. That they didn't go into it. I kind of enjoy that. I don't want to know what happened right away. I don't need to know everything all at once. Fill it in the gaps later on. It's not important enough to sit there and ruin the movie to have that gap in the plot. But it's enough that you can build another story off of, and that's cool that they didn't, like in Age of Extinction, not extinctions. But in that one, there was a lot of plots that could have been cool if they grew on them for other movies, but instead they shoehorned them into this one, and it was like jumbled mess. But yeah, it left a few loopholes that you're sitting there like, okay, they're not loopholes or plot holes, but they're not bad plot holes where you're sitting there scratching your head like, I don't like this. They explain that there's going to be a plot hole here, and they're going to have to figure out that plot hole later on in future movies, and that's cool. I want to see more. But like I said, it was kind of like an older version of the Terminator character in the second movie. So you get to see him have more character development, and by the end of it, it was actually really cool. I really enjoyed that. I mean, that made the movie for me in a way. Seeing him, I mean, there's a quick scene where, and this doesn't really give anything, but he's sitting there with Kyle Reese, and they're loading bullets in the magazine, and he starts tapping when he's done, and then Kyle Reese starts tapping when he's done. So then the next thing you know, they're just trying to load as many bullets as they can in the magazines to tap, done, tap, done, tap, done. And it's kind of like they're racing, and that's more of a human trait, and that's what I always thought that Terminator could have been put into or built into at some point had he not killed himself in the second movie. So that was really cool. I really, really like that. You see, because like I said, the trailers kind of give this away that John Connor is a Terminator, and you see this human turn more machine and more cold-hearted, but then you also see this machine become more human. So it's a really cool contrast that's in this movie because of that, and I really like that. I like I said, I thought the acting was all on point. The action sequence were all great. None of it was over the top. I mean, it's the standard Terminator over the top kind of thing from 1 and 2, but none of it was like in Terminator 3, the wrecking ball chase. I know I keep going back to that, but that was so fucking ridiculous. I mean, it just went on and on and on, and they're just like, okay, well, let's destroy this whole city block here real quick. And you're sitting there like, you don't think National Guard's going to get called for something like that? Of course they would. Some kind of disaster that big, you're going to have the military coming. So, no, that's not cool. And it's like, yeah, it kind of happened in Terminator 2 when he was shooting the minigun out the window. But At the same time, it was over so quick. They did it and then they were gone. So there wasn't that opportunity for them to call in, National Guard or something like that. But this one was like, I mean, it's just destroying things, and the sequence was 20 minutes long or something like that, and you're sitting there like, come on, come on. Anyway, I'm not trying to bash other movies and TV shows and stuff here, but bottom line is, I really like the movie. Like I said, it's the second favorite of the franchise, and I'm trying to think of all the movies that came out this year. So far, I'm gonna have to say it's probably my second favorite movie of the year. Second only Age of Ultron. I mean, Avengers. But yeah, I can't think of any movie that was better than this one, and I almost want to give it to this one over Age of Ultron. To be honest, I mean, Age of Ultron was great, but this one had a little bit more heart, I guess, is a good way to phrase it. I had a lot of fun. I recommend seeing the movie. Go into with the mindset, like I said near the beginning of the movie, that it's the Terminator 1 timeline at the beginning of the movie. You have to go in there, otherwise it's going to take you out of the movie and you're going to be sitting there scratching your head like, wait, what? So just forget 3 and 4. Just 3 and 4, just forget them. They have nothing to do with this plot. So, put that in your mind before you go into it. And also, as with all action movies and Terminator movies and Transformer movies, you have to go in it with your brain kind of shut off. Maybe on an idle. Maybe not completely shut off, but idling. Because it's an action movie. If you sit there and pick apart the sequences and what's going on and plots and character development, you're gonna sit there and you're not gonna get it, and it's gonna ruin the movie for you. It's just same thing with the Transformer movies. If you go into Dark of the Moon and you're like, okay, I want a piece of art here, you're not gonna get that. And you're gonna be like, okay, this is garbage in compared to true good written movies. Sorry, I have to say it. Transformers is not the best written movies. But if you go in there like, okay, this is a popcorn movie. I'm here to have fun and just watch robots beat the shit out of each other. This is your movie, because this is so much better than Age of Extinction. I mean, you get to see robots beating the shit out of each other, and it was awesome. And oh man. Alright, that's it. Like I said, great movie. Go see it. I really recommend seeing it. As far as a rating, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. There's, a lot of times I sit there, like me and my brother were the ones that watched it, and a lot of times when we leave the movie theater, we sit there and we discuss what was wrong in a movie, and we decide how things could have been played out better. I mean, you should have seen the conversation that we had when we came back from Age of Extinction. That was a nasty conversation. But most movies, we sit there, even Age of Ultron, it's like, oh, they should have done this instead of this, and this is how they could have played this a little bit better and done that. But this one, we talked about how awesome it was and where they could take the plot from here. There was not anything in that movie that I could sit there and say I could have thought of a better way to do this. And I am one of those people that I can think of better ways to do almost anything in a movie. Really, I mean, I can think of a lot of things that you could do to fix a movie, or even combining more storylines and stuff like that. I mean, I'm pretty good at stuff like that, and I'm pretty happy that I can do stuff like that. I mean, it's because that's what we do. Me and my brother and my friend Tommy. That's all we do is sit there and we discuss movies and how we could have fixed it and how it could have been better. And we have so many things that we could say about all sorts of movies, but this one, there's not much I can say about it. I mean, aside from it being so good and us sitting there and like, Well, we want to see more. We want more. I want more of this movie. I don't want it to end. I didn't want it to end. I was sitting there, I'm like, come on, keep going. No, not the credits. God damn it. I want to see more of this movie, and I'm very excited to see that they're planning 2 more movies to go on this franchise. And some people might say the Terminator franchise is dead, and it's been dead since 3, and in a way it has been. This is the reboot in a way. This is it. This is the new Terminator, and this was great. Anyway, I could go on for hours about just saying good. It's good and awesome and amazing and blah 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 blah. But I think you guys are getting bored of me. So